Hello, everyone. We would now like to start the first International Foreign Press Center Japan webinar for fiscal year 2023. I am Kodama, serving as the President of Foreign Press Center Japan. In opening today's international webinar on behalf of the organizers, I'd like to make a few remarks. Today's theme is the role of media and reader literacy in the age of generative AI, thinking on the future of reporting with the foreign media correspondents. Since OpenAI in the United States released ChatGPT in November last year, the move to let the generative AI handle what people have been doing so far has rapidly spread worldwide. With Japan facing a severe labor shortage due to its declining birth rate and aging population, increased efficiency and productivity are critical issues in various industries, and AI and robotics have already become indispensable. How to use these technologies and how to coexist with AI has become a social issue. Therefore, we will have two sessions today focusing on the relationship between media and AI. Already, the media organizations in and outside of Japan are already using the generative AI in gathering information, creating news, and distributing news. So there is a positive factor in terms of improving convenience. On the other hand, issues such as spread of false information, leakage of personal information, and risk of copyright infringement of media have been identified as a very important concerns. Therefore, in the first session, we'll have a discussion on the use of AI by media and points of concern. And in the second session, based on the discussion in the first session, there will be a discussion on how will AI change the media, the future media, and reporting. How will AI's restless technological innovation change the journalist's work? What kind of jobs will be expected or required? And what should the readers and viewers, as recipients of the information made with the use of a generative AI, keep in mind when encountering the news contents? Those points will be discussed. Now, please allow me to introduce the speakers today. First of all, the moderator is Mr. Akira Ikegami. I cannot think of anyone more suitable than Ikegami-san to lead today's discussion. Now, the panelists from Japan side, we have Professor Kaori Hayashi, Executive Vice President, the University of Tokyo, and Mr. Akira Oikawa, the AI Quantum Editor from Nikkei. And also from the foreign media, we have Mr. Tim Kelly, a Senior Correspondent, Reuters Tokyo office, and Mr. Reed Stevenson, Senior Editor, Bloomberg Tokyo office. So we have honor of having 4 panelists with us. Now some announcements to the participants. Both for the first session and the second session, the discussion will be for 45 minutes. And then after that, we have a Q&A session for about 15 minutes. We take questions from a Q&A icon, so please type in the questions to the Q&A at the bottom of the pre-C. You can start to type in the questions once the first session starts anytime. Due to time constraint, we can only take the questions through the Q&A icon, so I ask for your support and understanding. And please identify who you're addressing the question to, and also identify your name and affiliation. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the members who are with us, and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as Nikkei Inc., who are kind enough to support today's webinar. Now, Ikegami-san, over to you, please.
Hi. Thank you. Ikegami speaking. As introduced, I'm going to be the coordinator of this session, but the generative AI will go forward, and then the coordination could be done by generative AI, and my job will be gone. But we are not living in that era yet. To begin with, generative AI, how are we going to use it? In education and in journalism, it is a major challenge. in education and journalism, I have two hats. So actually, when I teach generative AI, chat, GPT, how is it to be used, I discuss that all the time. This time, in the world of journalism, how is this going to be used? How is it advised to be used? And how is it used right now? Where we are, that's what we are going to about in the first session. And in the second session, we will discuss what's going to happen in the future. So first of all, from the Japanese person, Mr. Oikawa of Nihon Keizai Shimbun, how the generative AI is positioned in your company. Can you start?
Thank you very much. I am Oikawa from the Nikkei. Thank you for this opportunity. So last year, ChatGPT was released. And as a Nikkei, how should we address this generative AI technology? We've had repeated discussion within the company. And in July this year, so the department of the editorial, my boss actually, Mr. Yamazaki, externally announced the policy of how Nikkei will address generative AI technology. So please allow me to introduce that policy. If I am to read out, it will take time, so I will just focus on the highlights. So the generative AI is innovation that could change the society. On the other hand, in terms of how you use it, the accuracy that media should protect and the fairness may be demised. So this innovative technology will be a power to promote the evolution of media, but what the journalism should focus and take care the most, the trust and reliability of the readers could be damaged. It could be triggered, it can be damaged. So Nikkei is very open and aggressive to welcome the new technologies. So we will use the generative AI in a limited way that would only contribute to our news. So the data extract from the public information and search and translation of the sentences and to support the editing is what we anticipate to use AI. So we've been using AI to come up with a summary of the financial results of the company's financial overview. So we have been using AI for that purpose, but basically the sentences and images are generated by AI to use it as is and make it public. We don't do that. So when it comes to the copyright, the journalists have the rights, and we would not tolerate that these would be used without our permission to visit where the news is taking place and with the expertise to analyze and to communicate the true, accurate information to the readers can only be done by people. That's what we explain externally. So the advancement of technology is not something that we deny, of course. But of course, we have to enjoy the benefits of that. So to take advantage of that is what we would like to do. On the other hand, it's people who would bear the responsibility for the reporting. Internally, tools like ChatGPT have been sort of arranged or customized for the internal purpose. And we've already introduced that. It is accessible to the general employees within a company. So some search or brainstorming of ideas, we utilize that. And so-called data journalism, analyzing various data, we have a team specifically on that. And extracting data, analyzing data, that team is exploring through the trial and error how they can leverage this kind of technology. And we have a Nikkei Innovation Lab. It's like a R&D function, and including the technical aspects, they look into how generative AI can be used. Sorry for a lengthy introduction, but if I may share with you my personal opinion as well. So generally speaking, when it comes to Japan, we're faced with a severe declining of population, and there's a shortage of people everywhere. Therefore, and we hear this often, but the Japanese people, when it comes to generative AI, basically are quite forward-looking, quite aggressive in taking that. But the big challenge is to improve the productivity. So it's very important to be forward-looking on that. Goldman Sachs from the United States, or in the case of United States or Japan, in average, about 1/4 of what we do can be automated with the generative AI, according to Goldman Sachs. So utilizing that functions to improve the productivity is quite important. And with the media organizations, of course, that applies to us as well. When we think about it, my work, my job, from the morning to the night, of course, I talk to people, I exchange emails to report and cover. So it's the words that I use. And in some cases, I record them and listen back and then write an article and edit it. So the work of journalist is majority of the tasks is using words. Therefore, where we can incorporate, we like to incorporate generative AI, leverage that, and what can be automated, can be automated and use it as an assistant where it can. I think it's important to take a good balance. However, that and the policy of our company in relation to that, creating the article itself and to use generative AI for writing article itself, that's a different issue. For the newspapers, articles are the products per se. Like automobile companies selling cars, insurance companies selling the insurance products, and hamburger chains selling hamburgers, just like that. For us, the articles, the media are products, and our clients, the readers, pay for that products. And we cannot offer that with the low quality. And therefore, as was mentioned earlier, if we provide something that is a low quality, that could damage the trust and reliability, and that would only lead us to destroy ourselves. So on that part, we have to be cautious and careful. Sorry for the long introduction. That's all from me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Later on, I'll come back to you and have more discussion. Next is Mr. Tim Kelly. So I can call him Tim. So Tim, floor is yours. Thank you. Reuters. In 1851, this media organization was founded. At that time, the pigeons were used and the telegram was used in reporting the news. And in 1865, the Reuters broke news ahead of its competitors, including the assassination of President Lincoln. So it was the use of new technology. Since then, we have seen the introduction of new technologies that both pose a challenge to the industry while bringing new opportunities. Those include radio, television, computer terminals, beginning in the 1960s, and the really big change at the end of the 20th century with the introduction of AI and online news. Generative AI is the latest one and the extension of that. At Reuters, it is not yet clear how it will alter the newsroom, how journalists do their jobs. It's not clear yet with our company yet, or how people consume news. There are likely changes that as yet a few of us have considered. To be sure, it would make some jobs redundant. A future editing desk could be an AI with a few editors for quality control, and that I mean accuracy. At Reuters, we are using AI somewhat regarding translating a simple article from English into Japanese. So we use that. And before that, there were some parts not confirmed by humans, but the news for the readers would be solidly conveyed. There is a transparency about the news in question. So AI could be a challenge, but there are opportunities as well. How AI is going to help us in the media world, for example, as a journalist, I often have to read lots of documents. And if AI is there, AI can help me read voluminous documents. When I interview people, I have to transcribe what I recorded. I don't know about other reporters, but it's a mundane work. It's boring work, but AI can help. And then personally, I am so happy that boring job is helped by AI. In May, Reuters editor-in-chief set out the principles for how Reuters News will use AI. 3 principles. The first, Reuters regards AI technology, including generative text-based models like ChatGPT, as a breakthrough technology that offers the potential. But second one is that Reuters reporters and editors will not depend totally on GPT. In the final analysis, humans will confirm and verify. The third principle, Reuters will make robust disclosure for the sake of transparency. If we use AI, we will have transparency and disclose the fact that we used AI. Going forward, how AI is going to give us impact, we don't know. But we are in the process of studying various things. Thank you.
Next from Bloomberg, Mr. Reed Stevenson. Should I call you Reed-san, please? Thank you for this opportunity today. So within journalism, to leverage AI, as we do so, I think it can be divided into 2 major areas. One is that AI itself will offer the contents that will be read by the readers. And Nikkei and Reuters, I think, use that in a rather limited way. And same for Bloomberg from a few years ago. First, it was the algorithm based. In other words, rather than the large-scale language model, but based on the rules, for instance, with the software to summarize a press release or to find the headlines. If you are a media agency, among the major agencies, I think the technology has been leveraged to a certain extent, that's for sure. But this language model that has come out recently has brought about a significant impact. And there are concerns with that. So whether the articles offered by the media, have they been written by the people or not? And likewise, it's mostly translation or transcribing the text. Using AI, they always have to come with a disclaimer to clarify to the readers that AI technology has been used to generate the contents. So there needs to be a clear disclaimer. Another area, as has been discussed by previous speakers already, is that in terms of the work handling information, it's a very strong tool, powerful tool, that they do the research for us and transcribe and summarize the sentences. So there are more and more scenarios where the AI can be utilized. Now, the language model utilizes the probability. In other words, there are certain rules. Or it's not that they use the rules, but rather among many sentences, the most probable wording or the phrases are identified, and they assume that this should be it. And they offer as a proposal. If you think it that way, then as you should know, there could be some mistakes or errors. That's because they're based on the probability. As there are false information around the world, then the language model identified them as the answer. So the fact-checking, the very fundamental fact-checking as a journalist, to what extent what I'm reading is correct. We need to make sure to do the fact-check. And then, in a nutshell, quality is low. Well, today, ChatGPT, I would like to show a demonstration by logging into the account. I think you can switch the screen. Let's say that article will be generated. Oh, I didn't really prepare much, but a Bank of Japan policy, for instance. Let's have ChatGPT write an article about the BOJ policy. So I'm typing in a BOJ policy. For BOJ policy to change, what are the conditions? So please write an article within 200 words about the conditions for a BOJ policy to change. So I'm typing instruction for the ChatGPT to write an article within 200 letters on the conditions for a BOJ policy to change. I think it will come up with an article. So I think you're reading it by here. Inflation 2%. It's not included at all. So generally speaking, that is the most decisive condition determining a factor. So based on this example, there is for sure a limit somewhere. Using AI to produce an article, there's still an issue with the quality. I think you can tell it's not good enough. And I will show another one later. But as a tool itself, it can be a very powerful partner. So I can come back to that later on. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rido-san. So demonstration, very interesting. High school students have a summer vacation homework, and I think he or she can write a good quality article. Nikkei journalist writes like that. He will be chided by the editor-in-chief. It was a very interesting demonstration. Thank you very much. So we heard the presentations from 3 active reporters. Now, on the other hand, what about the educational situation, how AI should be used on educational situation? Professor Hayashi of University of Tokyo. Floor is yours. Thank you very much. I am Hayashi of University of Tokyo. So there are actual journalists, and I don't work as a journalist. So as such a role representing educational situation, I would like to give my remarks. ChatGPT is the topic. I think 2 parts to it. One is how the work is going to be changed at the actual job place. Another thing is how media contents are going to be changed. So I think a topic can be divided into 2 parts as such. Am I doing okay? Yes, the screen will change. Yes, yes, yes. Now we see Professor Hayashi's face. So, well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am speaking. I am Hayashi. So you see, as others have spoken, it is a powerful tool. I heard that. And especially regarding ChatGPT, I often think about this at the university as well. Many things can be replaced by ChatGPT. And then the simple tasks could be done by ChatGPT, and the connoisseurs or real professionals will have to consider very seriously how ChatGPT can be used. For example, in the case of Japan, newspaper world is having a hard time. The circulation is reducing. So 53 million used to be the circulation, but it is now less than 30 million circulation. So it is at the level of 1960s circulation. That is the economic situation. So the labor force is not increasing in the media world. For example, the including television station, the news agency, and newspaper companies. It is a powerful tool, but what about humans? There are certain things that only humans can do. Now, where can you draw the line? How can you draw the line between the two? So I think we have to consider very specifically. Of course, it's convenient, it's easy to use, and not everything can be replaced. But then, the professional journalists, what kind of articles are they going to write? That should be the right question. That has to be clearly pursued as a mode of questions. At the same time, on the media side, what about contents? Contents get involved in the use of ChatGPT. Media side, the contents-wise, for example, ChatGPT can make white lies. People talk about it. AI can lie. So then what kind of content would not be usable for ChatGPT? Well, there was a demonstration about Bank of Japan's policy. So you have to train and nurture reporters who can make distinction between the two. For example, reporters were trained in the past. First, you go to police department and you start from the announcement of the accidents and cases. But a different kind of reporter training is needed in the era of generative AI. That's what I thought. One step forward, ChatGPT, there can be benefits and there can be dark sides. 3 reporters actually talked about it. So there is a huge black box. The private companies are going into that huge black box. But media companies themselves are dependent upon that black box. Government is reliant on that, and the universities are relying on it. So it's a very huge muscle. So ChatGPT's mechanism, the inside the black box, those have to be understood by reporters. That kind of reporters are needed. According to my sensitivity, for example, you belong to a political section, and then you know much about what government works, you know the political mechanism and so forth, just like that. In the era of generative AI, the information industry, technology, mechanism of ChatGPT, reporters must have the good understanding of how things go. So I think this is the point of concern for the media companies to make use of AI, generative AI. That's what I can talk about it. Thank you. So 4 remarks were made. Professor Hayashi, you said that what professional journalists are going to write about? It was a very serious question. Generative AI can do so many things. Precisely because of that, human reporters or professional reporters, what can we do? What should they do? Well, that is a question to be posed to the journalists. But if you ask for my opinion, I'm a reader. So as a reader, I would like reporters to listen to the voice of the actual field, and then you can portray and convey and communicate exactly and accurately to the readers. That's what That's reporting that I would like to hear and read. But the allocation from where to where, I think reporters should be able to respond to that question. So now I will ask the professional reporters about that. First of all, Kelly-san, what about your opinion? Let me see. One thing is that as of now, as we speak, the AI can do certain things, and then 5 years ahead and 10 years ahead, things that the AI can do would be so different. That's the first point. Simple article can be generated by AI. I think AI can do that as of now. For example, the market report, the bonds report, or stock reports, or simple financial results of companies. I think that would be easily done by AI. But investigative journalism or a journalism which considers AI, the ideas, AI cannot do that as of now. So just small thing can have a lot of implication, and then human can detect that. And reliability is very important. Trustworthiness is very important. Humans must verify and confirm. Otherwise, AI, for the time being, AI cannot be trusted. All right, Rido-san, same question. Professional journalist, what should they be writing? As of now, what is it? I would like to approach the question from a different angle. Where is the value of a journalist? I think I can rephrase the question in this way. I've been thinking about it, and when I dig deeper into this question, digitized information, press release, or company's information or media produces certain news, and rewriting those digitized information has no value as of now. Rewriting has no value because software has advanced so much. Software can handle and process that very skillfully. So reporters rewriting digitized information is no longer necessary. At present, it is happening. Where is the value of a journalist? As Kelly-san mentioned, it is something similar to what he said. One thing is the information contained within the brain of a human. You have to extract that information from human brain. And another thing is idea. A variety of information exists, and then you input those, and then within your brain, within human mind, human head, what kind of information is connected, what is involved, and what is related with what. That is, for the time being, can be done well only by humans, as of now. At the actual journalistic field, reporting field, I'm sure that you have experienced this in many situations. Idea comes up with a reporter. Connecting the dots, that's the English phrase. Connecting dots is very important for humans. Now, Rido-san, you said the information within the human brain has to be retracted. So appropriate interview and news gathering should be done in an appropriate way. But not only interview, it's a communication, it's dialogue. You meet with a lot of people. It sounds matter-of-factly, but you meet with a lot of people. You talk about a lot of things, and then there could be information which is not publicized yet, and then you can dig it. You can excavate that. You write it, you make it an article, and then the moment you do that, it is digitized. And by AI, it can be transformed into something different. That's a possibility. So from the moment you make your article public, your value decreases. So what value remains is the information not digitized yet, on information contained within the human brain. Thank you very much. Mr. Oikawa, I designate you as the third person because I have two questions. The professional journalist, what should he or she be writing? That's the first question. The second one, as Professor Hayashi mentioned, for example, regarding the political situation, there are journalists, expert journalists. What about technology like a generative AI expert reporters are needed? You belong to tech group editor in the editorial bureau. You are the tech savvy reporter. What are you doing? So regarding those 2 points, I'd like you to respond to my questions. Thank you. Thank you. You have pointed out Professor Hayashi is really hitting the mark in her question. As for Nikkei, for article making, we don't use AI, basically, but as a mental exercise, I've been thinking. Two people have already spoken, and something similar to that. Current generative AI can manipulate words very skillfully. They have that skill. Long sentences can be summarized. They are very good at it. So government or companies make a press release, and then in a way, in a style of a newspaper article, it can summarize. And if I order, make a newspaper article like a sentence, I don't know, ChatGPT can do it immediately, but they can, I can configure systems, I think AI will be able to do that. Digital space and net space, there are a myriad of informations, and then they can collect and they can summarize and they can write an article. That kind of work can be asked AI to do it. Already it is happening. Some people are asking AI to do that. But on the other hand, what about AI? AI, something is happening in the actual field. The AI can go to the place and asking people questions and write articles. As of now, AI cannot do that. They can't go to the place. So based upon the primary information, they can summarize, they can make excerpts, but primary information is written by the media organization people. So media organization has to exist for providing the primary information. The getting primary information is done by the journalists. I think getting primary information, the job like that will remain, and that is something that we should be doing so that we can communicate the article to the world. This is my personal opinion, I know. But for example, what is happening in Ukraine or what is happening in Gaza, Hamas, and Israel, the war has broken out. And to the actual field, staking your life. Reporters are going there. Journalists are there, staking their lives. I'd like to pay my deepest tribute as a fellow journalist. But personally, in Gaza Strip, the fake information is abundant. So in that situation, portraying truth and reality would be very important. What is good? What is true? It's very difficult to see through and identify what is true versus fake. There are people suffering actually there on both sides. Different views that do exist, I know. So that have to be listened to by the journalists. And in your own way, you think that it is the truth, then that has to be communicated. Only humans can do that. And personally, as a reader, that is something that I don't want AI to do it. After all, humans should feel firsthand. I'm not saying whether that is 100% correct and accurate, but human journalists should be there and write articles in the actual field, and then their gut feeling has to be portrayed. As a human reader, I find usefulness and significance there. So where do I draw the line? I have not thought about it very strictly, but generally speaking, that's what I have been thinking. Another thing regarding my work as a tech journalist, as Mr. Ikegami introduced, At the Nihon Keizai Shimbun, I belong to business reporting unit. You may know Nihon Keizai Shimbun is a economic journal. So the business activities are the main focus. And I am the expert on technology reporting. I am doing the job regarding business unit or mobility industry. Experts are there. IT industry, electrical industry experts, oil and energy industry experts are there, and there are expert reporters in various groups. So I belong to technology group, including AI. So I am in charge of watching what is going on. So from the professional eyes, maybe my study level has not reached the high level because technology is changing so rapidly day in and day out. But that is what I do. That is what I try to do. Thank you. Professor Hayashi, please. Yes. So people have different ideas. I have a little concern, especially looking into the Japanese media situation, as Mr. Oikawa mentioned. So a reporter like that in Japan, in the media organization, once every 2 years, you are transferred. You make friends with somebody, but you change to a different unit. So media organization wants to nurture journalists. I think that was the mode of training in the past. But with the advent of ChatGPT, we live in the world with ChatGPT. This is the environment, which is good or bad. I have a disturbing sense about it, especially I'm talking about newspaper companies. Japanese newspaper companies have a very thorough checking and proofreading and updating and copy editing. This process can be replaced by ChatGPT. I write newspaper columns. In the last 3 days, the grammatical proof reading is going to be very cumbersome. So that is going to be the job of a journalist. I think that kind of work has to be changed. How is it going to change? It's not only the thinking of the reporters themselves. Company structure must change. Another point to it. Individual companies, up until now, UK or American media, they are English media, so they can have global organizations. But basically, media companies have developed together with the nation state. But the ChatGPT goes global. You have to use ChatGPT in global ways. Global network is something that you have to create. So this is good today. This is the global formation. This is the global ideal setting. So this is something structurally we have to change. We have to think structurally about the media organization. Thank you very much. Oikawa-san said that, for example, Gaza Strip situation, there could be a lot of fake news abound, and then AI articles are something that he doesn't want to read. So midnight at CNN and BBC, if you watch, then there is a war journalists. And he's appearing. I know this guy. He is the wartime journalist. And then I can have a good sense of trust. In the case of newspapers, you have a signature. You have your name attached to our article. If you don't have your signature, we don't know whether it's a fake or is it AI-produced articles. If there is a signature or name attached to it, you can have increased sense of trustworthiness. So this is the human writing, human beings writing an article. This is what I have been thinking. So more than ever, the autographed articles are going to be very important. Another thing, professional journalists and AI. Professor Hayashi and I would belong to the same thinking. For example, Chief Cabinet Secretary's press conference, the reporters are just looking at the PC and typing on PC. What is it doing? That can be done by AI. Why the reporters are doing the typing on the PC in the past? They will take memo, but they will look at the face of the chief cabinet secretary. And if you watch the countenance of the face, you can read the nuance. But the current chief secretary has no expression. So sometimes you watch the face, but you don't read anything. But the actual reporters, they should watch the face of the speakers. The transcription can be done by the AI. Just leave it to the AI. Professor Hayashi, what do you think?
I cannot agree more. So such tasks now, when it comes to the Japanese media, I think that kind of tasks are being quite prioritized, identifying headlines, taking notes. And as Mr. Ikegami said, with autographed signed articles so that we can see the faces of the journalists that have been neglected because of the structure issues like having to rotate on a regular basis. So the value of news and what kind of news would be more important, the kind of ups and downs, I think it needs to be more emphasized in order to survive in this era of ChatGPT. What do you think, Oikawa-san, for instance? Any comments? Yes, Oikawa-san, please. Well, about the press conference, that's exactly so. I totally agree. Actually, Nikkei Shimbun's, my boss, our management completely agrees. And we have introduced a transcribing tool. Now, the background for that, I'm not telling you an excuse. I think your point is well taken. But in the era of internet, unlike the old newspapers, were expected to have the timely news, the flash news, the breaking news, especially from the journalists, just like Chief Cabinet Secretary's comments on behalf of the government. Of course, we have to be accurate. So we work very hard to make sure that we take one word by word to be exact, and then to be able to report that in a timely way. So looking at those press conferences, I think those journalists are so eager to type in every single word that the Chief Cabinet Secretary said. But there is a certain way that AI can automate that. And some companies have already started to do that. And as Professor Hayashi made some comments earlier, so personally, I would like to have a more elaborate discussion with her. But if I cover everything, I will go over the time. So if time allows, later on I may come back. Rido-san, followed by Kelly-san, please. Well, as Professor Hayashi mentioned, well, if I may pick up 3 points. One point is about fake news. For the academic, even in the universities, the literature and papers used with the use of AI are coming out. And AI also is used for the tool to detect that. So the language model AI tool is evolving. And with the more it evolves, it's not that this fake news issue is to be neglected, but maybe we can solve that issue to a certain extent. This is my personal opinion. Now I would like to welcome Oikawa-san's feedback later on. And my second point is about the specialists, to train, educate the specialists. If it's a large-size media organization, journalists and specialists, I think the large agencies are training both the journalists and the specialists. And what I mentioned earlier, where can we find the value of the journalism to come up with ideas? I think journalists are more suitable in coming up with ideas covering a wide range, maybe shallow, but a wide range of ideas can be identified. I think that would be the role for the journalist. I think that is the case now. And what is not available in the world yet, a very valuable information that is not out yet, then that should be extracted, pulled out by the specialists. That's the role of the specialist. And then last but not least, Another point about the Japanese reporting, a comment about the Japanese media. When it comes to the language model, from the very start, it's multilingual from the start. Very applicable to the translation. So myself and Kelly-san work for international agencies. Looking at the Japanese media, the news coming out from outside of Japan, the quality of that kind of news is quite low. To be able to read in the Japanese language, in terms of the volume and the quality of the international news where we can read in Japanese, there's still an issue. The quality is not necessarily that high. And Nikkei and Asahi are dispatching correspondents overseas, but they rotate every 2 or 3 years. So the information that they can get, I think there's a certain limit. It's not that they're sent for 10 years. At least that's not the custom now. The correspondents, expats don't stay overseas for a long time. So from my perspective, utilizing AI, I think the Japanese news agencies should translate the international media in Japanese. Thank you. Kelly-san, please. About the Chief Cabinet Secretary press conferences, if I can go back to that example. So the current Chief Cabinet Secretary's press conferences, well, I don't think it's possible to apply to that now. At Reuters, every day, on a day-to-day basis, we cover the press conferences, but we don't make it a headlines. Or in the press conferences, sometimes we only cover the contents that may interest the international audience in English, and it's people who make that choice. If it's AI, then AI will not be able to choose. I think AI will make a headline of everything. That means that you won't be able to tell where the news is. And what a very important quality of what people have is that people have a sense of urgency, but AI doesn't. So for the journalist, without the sense of urgency and tension, we won't be able to work. Then the Chief Cabinet Secretary's press conferences, to transcribe that immediately or to translate into English with AI, and looking at that as an agency, well, is this a headline that worth communicating overseas? I think you can use it that way, right? Yes, it's possible. But then at the end of the day, it's people who have to make a choice and confirm and check. Right, at the end of the day, yes. But the current Chief Cabinet Secretary's press conferences, are there any comments that is worth having a headlines? Sometimes, occasionally. Okay, I'm glad that your answer was not at all. So far, we've been discussing on how it is used now and what are the issues. So from here on, why don't we jump into the second session, looking into the future. How can the AI change the media, the future media and reporting? And as such, the concern is the infringement of copyright. Just the other day, the internet media pretty much copied the Nikkei's article, becoming an issue. That is indeed the infringement. So the future media, so with the limited conditions, internet media is actually increasing, it's spreading. So in order to save cost with the limited human resources, but without actually going to the field, just collect information on the internet and come up with article, and AI can be used for that purpose. And as a result of that, we're faced with this huge issue. So about the future media, what kind of problem would that be? So Nikkei has become a victim from that perspective. Oikawa-san, please. So this is a large language model based, the fundamental base technology for ChatGPT, the reporting news reporting agencies' news are used for the learning purpose. And as Ikegami-san mentioned, I think that is also the case. But for us, the articles that we communicate are used free of charge, almost like a free ride. As someone in the news agency, I do have a sense of crisis for that. So about 20 years ago, with the advent of internet, and it was just about 20 years ago that I became a journalist myself. So the role and position of the media has changed significantly. And in the case of newspapers, the media changing from print to the electronic, and not just that, but some TVs, the companies or the newspapers were the main players sending out the news, but with the spread of internet and with the spread of social media, SNS, then even the individuals can send out the information. So the players sending out the information have changed significantly. Another change was that the value that you can get the news free of charge, that value has spread. That's a big change. Earlier on, I talked about the generative AI being good at summarizing the information on the internet. And already, when it comes to Google and Microsoft, the information available on the internet through the internet search combined with the generative AI was to find out what's happening in Gaza and what's the latest status of the U.S. presidential election, about Otani's statistics. If you ask those questions in language or words, then from the news site on the internet, necessary information are identified, and AI can provide answers to those questions. From the user side, you don't have to go to NHK site or you don't have to go to a Nikkei site, but just with the Google search, you can get the answer. And generative AI still has the issue of providing a wrong answer, but the reliable from the trusted sources like NHK, they take those information from the trusted, reliable sources. So it's quite reliable. So from the user's perspective, it's very convenient. And you can read the news for free of charge on the internet. From the consumer's perspective, it's a huge advantage. It's a big benefit. On the other hand, having said that, as I mentioned earlier, news cases or the disputes for the human journalists to actually go there and listen to what the people have to say and verify the facts and then send out the information news and make sure that the appropriate words are used, eliminating the discriminative words and so forth, including all that. Of course, it takes cost and time to do that. Now, from the consumer's perspective, yet it might be better to be able to have an access to news free of charge. That's true, but then unless there's a compensation paid to that, then for every single journalist as work, we won't be able to continue to work as a journalist, and companies like ours will not be able to continue to spread the news or information. If I say so, well, you may think that you only want to protect yourself. You want to protect the profit of yourself or your company. You may feel that I'm trying to defend myself. But the information sent out by the current government or the information sent out by the large companies, take them as all facts rather than that. What Prime Minister Kishida is saying, for instance, now is he saying something proper? We need to verify that. And then based on that, we should write the articles. That should be the role given to the media. And in a healthy democratic nation, I think that kind of a role is necessary and expected. And the compensation being paid for that, the value being paid for that, not just about defending our own company or defending our industry. More than that, for Japan as a nation, I think it's quite important. That's how I strongly believe. And at the end of the day, the readers, viewers, and people of Japan, for them to feel that it's worth paying that much in terms of the value of the news, whether we can continue to provide that news so that people will feel worth the paying with the technological innovation continuing. How can we prove the value, the presence as journalism is what's going to be questioned going forward. Thank you.
Now, talking about the future, New York Times of the United States, with respect to ChatGPT, it reads newspapers and they learn and they enhance their own capability. So New York Times is used unilaterally for the study of ChatGPT, and litigation was brought by New York Times. If the court judges that ChatGPT shouldn't learn on its own the New York Times articles, then ChatGPT cannot exist. I think this is the litigation which is worthy of our attention. So with this, Rido-san or Tim-san, do you have any idea? Tim-san, please. Yes, indeed. Between humans, you learn from other people. You are inspired by other people. There are cases like that. It's not copycatting. It is, for example, Rido-san's article I read, and then I will not copy what he writes. With my signature on it, that is not to be tolerated. Of course, it is wrong to do that. But in the case of AI, drawing a line is very difficult in this case. But litigation is good in itself because of the lawsuit, the rules can be determined. So maybe the litigation happens, and after that, in this case, this is the damage on the part of the newspaper company and so forth. The rules would be determined little by little. And then for media company, I think litigation is good in itself. Rido-san?
So from the case example of the New York Times, so that's the information coming out from the court. And within the fence, so to speak, the language model was applied to pull out the information. So that scenario can be actually represented in different scenes. Bloomberg has a Bloomberg GBT. The information terminal is a product. So the information within that are not just articles, but the track record of the pricing of the different names and the researches and some indices and all, and then with the language model being applied to that, we have a subscription model, and users will subscribe to that to be able to use that. That's what we've developed. And a certain set of information, especially the information owned by the media, and use that as a base for a GPT, I think that will come out from different agencies.
So across the media, GPT, not across the media, but Thomson Reuters GPT or Nikkei Shimbun GPT, those are discrete GPTs could be generated? Yes, I think it is possible. It is possible. Oika-san, are you in the process of developing that?
I think it's possible, or I think that would be the way forward, yes.
a variety of AIs would be created going forward. At Reuters, the editing dedicated AI, special purpose AI could be created. So software development would make advancement. That's possible. And as long as you can do that within the confine of the organizations, it is not going to be the violation of copyright. Professor Hayashi, there is this litigation by New York Times. How the future AI is going to be used, I think copyright issue can be an obstacle. What should be the case? Well, copyright is an issue I'm not an expert of. But who wrote it? That's the original question, and you should pay tribute to the author and then use it. Oikawa-san said that people want to read the news free of charge. We can read news without paying, and if we are accustomed to doing that, we are used to do that, then ChatGPT should be used in producing articles, and all the institution may be crumpled, and then original use will not be maintained. On the other hand, when it comes to copyright, it is too much enclosed in a way, then people belonging to the public domain will find it difficult to access information. There are situations like that already happening. This is the area, something that we have to be careful. There could be all kinds of discussion. What I feel is this. What is information? Information is power. For example, with Reuters or Bloomberg, information is created. It's financial information or economic information. Nikkei also produces economic information, and data is accumulated, and then a good chat GPT may be created based upon the accumulative data. But when you look into the society, it's not only the financial activities or economic activities. There are live people living there. All kinds of informations exist. So as information, they are not cumulative, easily accumulated as data. There could be information which shouldn't be cumulatively accumulated. So across the board, it is applied with ChatGPT, and words are coined, and article is produced. If there is a cycle established as such, then the power in place now, or the wealthy people or wealthy place as of now, would be strengthened and solidified more and more. That is something that I'm scared of. Claire Perez wrote a book, Invisible Women. So in places like that, the women are forgotten, and the minority would be forgotten in many sense of the word. So they are not existing on the information creating side. These people are not there, and these people will be forgotten. So deliberately, little by little, of course, the situation is being remedied little by little, I hear, but this is the area that we have to be careful. That is how I feel.
With the gender bias, a lot of rich information out there are offered from, especially the men's side, who create information and collecting and putting them together, sorting them and offering them. Then oftentimes the information that come out are biased. So I think you raised that issue. For instance, now, the copyright infringement of ChatGPT with this issue, for instance, with Israel and Hamas, the dispute, what's happening right now on that point, be it the newspaper agency or the media, there is a common thing said by everyone, and ChatGPT can identify that. But this is unique to Thomson Reuters, so this is unique to Bloomberg's analytics. ChatGPT finding those unique analysis, then generally speaking, the dispute between Israel and Hamas, this is what's happening generally, but Bloomberg, as of such and such date, analyzes this way. Such clarifying where the news is coming from as a source, and ChatGPT identify that. Would that be possible in the future? Or is that already possible, I think? Would that not be infringing the copyright? What do you think? Tim-san, please. That is a good idea, I believe. Thomson Reuters, in other words, using AI, I think it's very important that there's a disclaimer and clarifies that it is used or produced with the use of AI. So I think it's very good to use AI in that way. How about you, Reid-san? Yes, of course, for the readers, as a disclaimer, to clarify that to the readers with the disclaimer is one thing, but another thing is that readers' responsibility on the reader's side. I think there is a certain responsibility on the reader's side as well. And this should be part of the education. How to obtain information and how to really make sense out of it yourself. As part of the general education, I don't think it has not fully penetrated yet. Even at the university level or the high school level or at any level, with the spread of social media, and the individuals can send out information. With the conventional education, well, this information is good, this information is bad. You know, you are taught black and white, but I think that era is already finished. So from the very early stage, the skill set of how to encounter the information, that should be taken as part of the education from the early stage. So the media literacy, yes, exactly. So when it comes to media literacy, actually in the elementary, middle, and high schools, in the Japanese or social studies, it is somewhat taken up. In the past, for the headlines, it varies from one company to other or one newspaper to yet other. But with the advent of SNS, various information are available on SNS. If you use it, then you can hurt people. So that's the kind of level of education that is catching up finally. And all of a sudden, with a large language model is out. Now, what are we going to do about this? So at the educational front line, they have to follow up with the evolution of the media. Now, those of you who are watching this webinar, I'm sure some are from the educational sector, and also as a reader with the fake information and with the AI, how should we take and absorb the information news? I think there is a sense of concern. So as a recipient, as a receiving side, Professor Hayashi, and I'm sorry to take it up to you, how should we take it? Well, as has been mentioned over and over, when it comes to information, it doesn't come free of charge. We have to reconfirm that once again. Reuters' digital news report is published every year. In that report, what I read was that for the past year, the ratio of paying online news among 20 countries, Japan was the lowest. So Japan, as an aggregator, Yahoo News, well, you watch it free of charge, and that's the end of it. I think that's quite common. That has become customary in Japan. So information comes with the cost. And information has its intention. It has purpose. We have to read the information in that way. And you just simply read the information free of charge. That kind of reckless behavior would not be good. The critical thinking is something that we have to obtain. And the university is eager to promote that. How we can change the curriculum has become an issue for us. Thank you. So the receiving side, the recipients, as a journalist, sending out the information to the receiving side, what kind of message should we convey? Or how do we expect the recipients to take the news that we send out? Tim-san, any expectations? Well, what we expect the recipient side, I've actually not thought about that deliberately. So myself or Reuters offering news, I want people to trust that. Same for Bloomberg and Nikkei. There is certain criteria, fundamental rules of journalism that we follow. So I think we are trustworthy. So the readers who read our news, I hope that you will trust in our news rather than the news on the Twitter, on SNS. Don't simply believe them easily. It's up to them to make a judgment as to who will be the source of the news. So that's one expectation. How about you, Rita-san? Well, the trustworthy news and useful news. I think those are the points. Even if you trust it, if it's not useful, then you can't find a value. So to offer the useful news, it comes with the risks as well. Rather than simply sending out the general common sense kind of news, something that nobody has noticed, like about the very dangerous areas or information, we have obligation to send those news out to the general public. How about you, Oikawa-san? As two of my colleagues have already mentioned, well, if I dare to say a very classical old media like TV companies or newspaper agencies like ourselves, what we are reporting, I don't mean that everything we report are all correct and accurate. I don't mean to say that. But at least we are to convey that it's not true. Of course, it gets quite challenging as to how you define the truthfulness, but to make sure that we don't communicate something wrong or to put a focus on the trust from the readers so that as much as possible we want to send out the correct information and we make the best effort for that, that's for sure. So, of course, it's very difficult to say that everything we say is true, but we are at least making that effort and we will continue to do so. And as Mr. Ikegami mentioned, so even before AI, especially with the advent of SNS and in Gaza, X, former Twitter platform, provides false or fake information, which has become a big issue. And it's true that that is happening quite easily, and there's no quick medicine to that. Professor Hamashi talked about the critical thinking. There's no quick medicine. So the reader side, as I'm one of the readers, but when we encounter a news or article, whether that is correct or not, we have to take one step back and be able to make a judgment whether that information is correct. And we need to be able to have capability to be able to make that judgment. And for that purpose, of course, one thing is reading the newspapers like ours and to listen to different opinions and to cover a wide range of perspectives so that you have to be able to build your own criteria for judgment. I think that will be more and more critical and important, especially for the important news from the multiple trustworthy, if I dare to say, from multiple trustworthy sources, you should get the information, not just depend on one. And next year is going to be very important. There's going to be an election in Taiwan and presidential election in U.S. as well. So I think those will have a high interest worldwide.
So today the topic is generative AI. As we live in the generative AI era, what is scary is something related with video. The fake information with a video can be created so simply by an amateur. In the springtime, I think it was President Trump was arrested by a policeman. That kind of video was created, and Pope was wearing a youth fashion. That was another fake fashion created by AI. In the past, the computer graphic skill was necessary to make such a video, but an amateur layperson can make it with the help of AI. For example, around the Pentagon explosion happened. Again, it is the fake news, and the U.S. stock price went down. It was accompanied with video. So video, it's sometimes you can believe it, but there is a possibility of being a fake. And it's the same thing with audio. Oikawa's voice, my voice, can be synthesized by AI. It is possible. So with the advancement of technology, you have to have a literacy about the technological literacy. Especially the explosion, the stock price went down. Fake news. I realized maybe utilizing this manipulation, you can gain some money. So there is a crime organization benefiting from that. News organization, for news agency, the promptness is the lifeline. So with the fake news, stock price can change, and preposterous things can happen. So that is the kind of risks that we have to watch out. So as a news agency, is there any countermeasures to prevent that? Is there? Or do you have to think about it going forward? It's a very difficult question. Before social media, before internet, in a way, news agency monopolized on the information. But now we lost its monopoly. Somewhere accident happens, and then the people actually there can transmit that information on social media. So information can come from all kinds of channels. News agency uses that kind of information. Sometimes we get the concurrence of the people actually there, and then we distribute that news. So protecting that is not possible. It will go out anyway. So as the news agency, what we can do is verify and confirm and then distribute. So we want you to trust us. Somewhere social media video we watch, and then, oh, I have to sell my stock. That is so ludicrous to do that. So you have to verify, you have to confirm, and then act on it. That's what I want to say. But in the case of stock price, if it is likely to decline, you want to sell. There are certain movement like that. It's a human psychology. So you have the short sell, and then you want to secure your profit. In my case, at that time when that information came out, I thought, wait a minute, was news agency traced that? Then no news agency were tracing that. So I thought it was fake news. But ordinary people will find it very difficult to make a judgment as such. So up until now, we discussed the problems. At the last segment of our session, we are talking about future. Generative AI, we should use the good part of it. So future media, what should be? How should it be? I want to think something ideal. Rido-san, you want to show something? Yes. Media. The language model can be utilized by media organizations. This is one example. Ordinary citizen can do that. So this is not necessarily monopolized by journalists. But just for example, before I found one thing, NHK and Ikegami-san's interview. I found this interview. And there, Q&A is attached to it. It's a long interview. It was a very long interview. But it could be summarized, and then it can be reduced to half size of the sentence. So I prepared something without video. So ordinary reporters makes an interview with somebody, and let's suppose such a situation, and then utilizing ChatGPT, I'm experimenting personally because of my curiosity, so I'd like you to see it. For example, I have prepared questions. The first one, innocuous question. Please summarize it in Japanese, this interview. So that was the command. Please summarize it in Japanese. It was the command given to this interview. Because the logic is so ambiguous, so cannot be summarized. Maybe that's the answer. So this is ordinary. Everybody is doing this. So question and answers shortened. Ikegami-san, do you remember this interview? Next, in writing an article from this interview, top 3 comments should be searched. Please find top 3 comments from this interview. Usable comments extracted from your interview. The next question. The best comment, what is it? What is the best comment? I give the command. Yes, I get the answer. This question, personally, this is an amusing question. The question's not asked. What question should he have asked? That's the command. What question should Ikegami should have asked? So these are the examples. This is my playing. So you can ask a lot of questions. Mishima Yukio, famous writer in Japan. Mishima Yukio, the Chinese character is right. In Mishima Yukio's writing style, please rephrase this interview in Mishima Yukio's style, language style. So based upon this interview, please write something in Mishima Yukio's style. Please write an article, Mishima style. Yes, it is Mishimaic. In English, you can make a command to write in Hemingway style. So it's an amusing exercise. In a sense, it may be one possible future of media. For example, everything is digitized. So original information, how do you process original information and how you digest the original information? So person can choose for his or her choice. For example, make a video and make a table and sort out the information to help me digest this information. So this is not only, so this can be a civic tool for the ordinary citizens. So ordinary citizens may be able to use this. And then the Professor Hayashi's problem, professional journalists, what is the way forward for professional journalists? I said, I go back to my 2 points. The first one is that find the undigitized information, and another is to find an idea. All right. So you can play around with that tool, with the technology, and maybe this can be used in the educational field, and then you can capitalize and you can find the best way to use in the education field. So once again, regarding the media, future media, so utilizing large language model, how can we go about it? Do you have any picture about the future? Let me think. What is not visible? There are so many things not visible yet. We have just entered the threshold of AI. In 1995, Internet was brought about. And then at the time of the initiation of Internet, most of the people were not able to imagine what will happen to Internet in 30 years' time. So in 15 years' time, 10 years' time, what will be the new business of AI? There are so many things that we can't see, not visible. So what happens in the future, it's very difficult to predict. Automation, certainly, it will make progress. In the past, the factory automation will advance to have no mistake automation. The doctors, lawyers, many fields will be impacted by AI. But journalism, not immediately, it will not be impacted. For example, the editor's desk, 5 people may be reduced to 1 person. I think there is a possibility for reducing the editorial desk people. The simple articles can be produced by AI. And after that, how things change, I can't predict, and I don't want to predict. You don't want to predict. Oikawa-san, Tim-san said that he doesn't want to predict. What about you? Well, let me think. Internet was initiated. At that time, the technology was discussed. How is it going to be incorporated into the media industry, depending upon the company, depending upon the newspaper companies? The strategic differences showed up. Regarding generative AI, I guess a similar situation. Technology will make progress even further. And how it is going to be adopted between media organizations, there may be differences. And there may be differences in ideas about the adoption. I think it is possible that there may be differences. For example, with respect to ChatGPT, it's a famous tool. With that alone, you cannot complete the discussion on generative AI. I'm not talking about the media world only. In various industries, in various sections, HR, the management planning, or auditing and accounting departments, what will be the best way of utilization for maximizing the productivity amongst the Japanese companies and amongst the global companies? That kind of study will progress. You can use them this way, and then this can produce this and that. Lots of ideas will come. Medias may be able to adopt something. For example, the interview, the transcription and recording of the press conference can be done automatically. So where possible, AI should be utilized. You have no choice but to do that. And where possible, the media that can do that in terms of management will have the competitive advantage. But, as I said, the last ditch, the contents creation. Contents creation can be done by AI. I think the choice is different amongst companies. So there may be companies which will go ahead and do that by all means. But like Nikkei Shimbun, there are companies which are very cautious about it. There may be companies continue to think cautiously. You cannot judge which one is correct so simply. But including those questions, you have to think for yourself. You are a person in the journalistic world. As such a person, you have to always be cognizant of the presence of the problems around you. You have to recognize that, and as a reporter, as one reporter, I have to consider that. I know I'm not answering your question.
So, Professor Hayashi, so what kind of future can we think of with this generative AI? Thank you very much. Listening to the discussion so far, I'd like to comment on 3 points. The first point is when it comes to ChatGPT or generative AI technologies and using language model programs, do they belong to companies, businesses? That was a point of concern. Those should be public assets available for everyone, general public. I think that's a benefit. So although there could be a copyright issues, but if ChatGPT and generative AI, if different companies develop them, or if they sort of keep and retain them just for the purpose of financial, for instance, then there will be people, the gap between people who can use it and those who cannot. And for the companies as well, if it's a large newspapers, they'll be able to afford to develop those. But the small size companies will not be able to afford to develop those. Then only the low quality thing will be available. And also by country level, rich countries will be able to make investment to develop these and will be able to have a proper legislation in place. But there are many other countries who won't be able to do that as well. Then those countries without the rules and regulations, the laws, then with the software being experimented and the bad way of using software could spread from those countries who cannot afford. So there are different issues such as transparency and copyright issues, but then at the global scale and within this gap of rich and poor, how can they be leveraged is something that we need to think about. My second point is, well, so the bad points using them, and I think there may be errors and mistakes using them. So with the new technology, as Tim-san mentioned, there are many things that we cannot predict. Therefore, the failures made, or what are the restrictions or limitations, we need to share them with everyone. I think it will be great to have a platform to be able to share the failures and mistakes. Apart from how ChatGPT will be developed, but from the user side, from the journalist side, to have a study session on that. What were the mistakes and what kind of fake news were out, having impact on the region? Some platform of venue to be able to share those would be desirable. And the third point is that us, the receiving side, with the education, well, high school comes up with a new course of information, but it's more like programming. It's more like a tech IT class. Apart from that, in the education, ability or media literacy of how to be able to really read the information in a critical way, to obtain that ability to be able to read the information in a critical thinking way. And that should be indispensable as the ability. But for that purpose, I think the failures and the limitations shall be shared in the public domain. And from there, us and the students and the kids will be able to learn as a sort of a text. I think that kind of a cycle should be created, those 3 points. Thank you. So in the first and the second session, how the AI should be vis-a-vis the relationship with media. And I think we're starting to see some possibility in the future. So from here, I would like to take some questions from the audience. So, President Kodama, if you can introduce those questions. Thank you. So, with this grand panelists, including the moderator, with a very active discussion and rich discussion, and I think this verifies we received so many questions. So, I'd like to sort the questions out. So, first of all, Professor Hayashi, there's a question specifically to you. So let me read out, and I may summarize it. Reflecting the voices of the female and minority, and not to strengthen the existing bias, I was very interested in the point made by you about ways of ensuring representation of women and minority voices in the use of generative AI. Now, does any one of you, so including Professor Hayashi or anyone, do you have any ideas on this point? And I'd like to also see a follow-up panel of younger speakers who can give us even more creative blue sky thinking on possible positive uses of this new technology. I think this is additional request to us. So once again, if I may repeat, not to strengthen the existing bias, do you have any specific ideas? Yes, I do. I do have an idea. So with the tech sector and the information development area, by far it's male dominant, not just in Japan, but also in other countries. And Caucasian male are dominant in the information sector or tech positions in the major decision-making positions are dominated by the Caucasian male. There are statistics to prove that. We need to change that, so that diverse people will, when it comes to ChatGPT and programming, for the diverse people to be involved. It can be done. It cannot be done overnight, but the social use of technology with that outlook and the development structure to be in place for that. Especially for me, from the perspective of social use of technologies, that's what I often make comment. Thank you. So I'm sorry, this question was from John Anderson. So moving on. From ABC News, Anthony Trotter, about the media future, there are two questions. The first point, if the human checked the information provided to AI, then would the AI be able to write the article with a quality equal to that of a human? If so, might AI reduce the journalist's role to the fact checkers? And in relation to that, with the AI technology, it appears to be leveling the playing ground. So less manpower and resources will be required in the reporting the news. The point is that do the larger news agencies have plans of retraining the staff to take on more roles in the multitasking future? So there was a discussion about journalists and specialists. So Reid-san, if you can take up on that question. Well, I don't think journalists will become fact checkers. I think it's vice versa. AI will become a fact checker. What I explained earlier, the enclosed information, based on that enclosed information, then AI will be able to do the fact checking much faster and accurately compared to women, the human. What was the second point? So the second point was in the multitasking. Do you have to retrain the staff to be able to bear the roles of multitasking? As an example, video editing, for instance. 20, 30 years ago, it was very time-consuming. You had to roll back the tape, and it was almost like analog work. And before that was films. You had to actually use the physical scissors, cut the tapes, and create a news program. And it evolved. And now on the laptop, you can edit the video and offer the video to the world. So the technology and AI language model are just the tools. So who are the journalists? So the format appropriate to the information, be it the video or the graphics or sentences, there are different formats. So what would that information be most suitable to communicate the information in the most clear way? What kind of platform should be used? That judgment can be handled by people. And where would that be posted? Then I think there'll be more and more as a tool. So we should leverage a tool suitable to different types of news. So far in the past, there have been video journalists and a text journalist writing the sentences. There was not much exchange. There were two completely different worlds. But they're getting closer, and now it's actually the same people who do the both. And it was thanks to the technology to make it happen. So that's something that we should make advantage of more and more. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question.
This question is to Oikawa-san. Very concrete question. The positioning of the headlines in terms of the news worthiness and the level of interest of the people at large, the positioning is decided. Then our headline positioning is to be done by AI. Is it already using AI? Or going forward, is there a possibility that AI would be used in this is the question from Yumiko Nishitani-san. Thank you very much for your question. Well, I belong to editing bureau, and this bureau decides which article is going to be on the top page, and on the internet, what news is going to be posted the first. I'm not the person belonging to that. I'm not making that judgment. But in the case of Nikkei, we don't use AI to make that judgment. Going forward, I don't think it will happen with the Nikkei either. I talked about the reporters being responsible in making report, and they are human reporters. So in the case, also as a person and also as an organization, media organization, as an organization, we want to be responsible in conveying the news to the people at large. Well, generative AI may come into creating a lot of contents, and AI may be writing articles in the future. In a time like that, Nikkei as a media, there are people who are supporting Nikkei as a media. And in order to have the people who support Nikkei, I think what I said is going to be the pivotal point in making the people trust and support Nikkei. This point will not change. But unlike in the past, we live in the internet era. So the readers have needs, societal interests have certain points and the needs. If Nikkei thinks that this is important away from the interests of the people or the needs of the people, we can't impose what we believe to the readers. We have to cater to the interests of the readers. We have to find out what kind of topics would be of the interest of the readers. So I will repeat, the value judgment is not dictated by that alone. Thank you. We don't use AI in making judgment. We have 3 remaining questions. Maybe this is a question to be responded by Ikegami-san. This is the relationship with the press club system. Max Sato-san is asking this question. Do you think the increasing use of AI will transform Japan's press club system, expand, shrink, or cease to exist? And this is a question to everybody, so anybody can join in answering this question. Tim-san? In the case of Reuters, we belong to press club in various organizations. It won't change. I think a press club system will remain. For the last several decades, what is the reason of not changing the press club system? What is the reason? What is a press club? It is at the forefront of the organization, and backside of that, AI could be used. But at the press club, the reporters belong there. They work on the desk, and they are waiting, and they go out to the actual field and gathering news. So AI may be used. So I don't think the press club system would be impacted. Ikegami-san? Well, press club, there are problems. It is closed in nature. The problems do exist irrespective of AI. The press club system is challenged irrespective of AI. It should be open, and it shouldn't have any prerogative as a press club. But watching the Japanese press conference, huge confusion happened without the ordering by the press club. So somewhere in between is being requested. And to that, how AI is going to be involved, we can't see it right now. But irrespective of that, the press club system itself is being challenged. Thank you very much. Two more questions. Media literacy and education. One is from Yamakoshi-san. I will read. When the AI singularity is going to be accomplished, is it going to happen what time? It's being discussed. But before that, human reporters write articles, and AI could write articles, and there has to be a connoisseur's eye, discerning eyes, distincting between the human-made article and AI-made articles. Bank of Japan policy was taken as an example. So how many people who have the ability, forensic ability to distinguish human-made article and AI-made articles? So I think there was a lot of discussion, but if you would like to speak to this question, so how do we nurture this discerning eyes? I think in school, from young age, media literacy is something which has to be educated, trained, and nurtured. It's very important. In many sense, educational system has to change. Professor Hayashi? Quick response. Expert knowledge is being demanded. So the forensic eyes, people with that kind of eyes would be necessary. So to what extent you have an expert knowledge, you can judge whether this is AI-made or human-made. I think it depends upon the depth of knowledge. The last question, Peter McGill is asked a question. The rapidly evolving ability of AI to translate, interpret, and even teach foreign languages could be of enormous value to Japan. I think this question has a broader context. How do participants view this? What will be the consequence and the benefits? What is the opinion of the panelists, and what kind of benefits will be brought about by this advancement? Anybody could answer this question? Already, translation software is available. Utilizing Google, you can do that, and it is valuable. There is a value. For foreign reporters, they can use that machine, and then they can work in an easy way. That is a possibility. But if you don't speak Japanese at all, To a certain extent, the translation software can be used to understand what is going on in the press conference or the press releases by the Japanese government or Japanese companies. So it is usable. I think this technology is usable. Well, personally, I'm using DeepL. I'm paying for DeepL software, and I'm paying 60,000 yen per annum and using it. So various media, English media, it takes time for me to read. So for the time being, using DeepL, roughly speaking, you understand what is being stated, what is being spoken. You can collect information Russian and Ukrainian language. I don't speak at all. So roughly, I can get the summary of the newspaper articles in Russian language or Ukrainian language. So personally, I'm using that software to that purpose. Sorry for overboarding. So going overboard with the time allotted. So we will go to the concluding session. So again, Ikegami-san, can you make a concluding remarks? Well, we had a variety of issues and possibilities that we discussed. So once again, then I will ask what should be. So I will go around the table. So a short message from each panelist. So we will start from Rita-san. Short message.
So when it comes to looking at new technologies, new tools, personally, I have high hopes for this. I have high expectations. One thing is that the value of the journalists will become more clear, more visible. Another point is improved efficiency. The flow of our work, job, will be much better and more efficient. And for the readers as well, for the viewers as well, to obtain and process and understand the information, this could be a tool for them to do that. I have expectation for that. Thank you. Oikawa-san, please. Thank you. I think, be brief. I myself, as I cover and report about AI, and when it comes to AI technology, I often think that through this technology, I wonder what are the roles and values of people, human. It makes me think quite often. And generative AI is exactly the technology. We, as Homo sapiens, the humankind, have a high level of language ability that others don't have, and we've been evolving our civilization as a history. So for the first time in the history of humankind, there is this existence who are good enough to be able to deal with the language other than the humankind. That has been unprecedented. It's never happened in the past. And to the reporting agencies and journalism, we cannot avoid but be impacted by that. And with this technology, once again, what are the roles of the reporting and what kind of a job am I in as a journalist? It makes me think and wonder more and more. And as has been discussed, there should be articles that only people can write. Well, at this point in time, it all comes down to guts that only people can write about. But we have to do more research on what are the articles that only people can write. And Japan right now is faced with this former Johnny's agency issue, and the roles of media is now being questioned. And on a global scale, there is this dispute in Gaza, and the role of media and the value is once again questioned with all these issues around the world as well. And how to face generative AI, it's not that we have a clear answer to that yet. And the idea may be divided even within the media organization. But for us to think about what are our roles and expectations, I think we need to look into that.
Tim-san? There are already smarter people than me, so I'm not worried about AI becoming smarter than myself. But AI is simply a tool. How to use it is going to be a point. Is it going to be used for a useful thing or just for pleasure? So we have to get together and we have to make rules about utilizing this tool. It's very important. And I learned a lot from this discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you. Professor Hayashi? Thank you. From the forerunners of the actual field, I learned a lot. 3 points. When it comes to information and data going forward, they are going to be the power source and they are going to be the source of money. I think this fact is going to be reinforced. Reversely put, power and money would dictate information. So societal flow is two ways. In the past, it was like that, but with the arrival of the new technology, in our brain, the technology is coming in. And then it could dictate. It could dictate and it could be dictated. This is something that we have to be careful. That being said, listening to the other people, when it comes to journalism or education or other professionalisms, so we may be able to get back the humanity through those institutions like journalism and education. How do we keep this information? That's the challenge. The last point, how do we do that? We make mistakes and we fail. There will be many cases of failure and mistakes. So the feedbacks should be shared amongst us so that the humanity can be barely maintained and the money and the power would not dictate unilaterally, and we will be living independently in the society utilizing information. In English, machine translation is not the only way. We speak day to day. We encounter language space. And in this journalism is the same thing. What exists in the brain of people should be extracted by journalism originality. I think that is the source of hope for me. Thank you very much. Lastly, I was going to make the summation, but some summary is going to be replaced by AI. Professor Hayashi always says 3 points, so I will copy her and I will say 3 points only. Not AI-made articles. Human-written article is something that I want to read. I'm a fan of Hanshin Tigers. Central League, Hanshin Tiger victorious. AI can write it. But the reporter, avid fan of Hanshin Tigers, can write an article predicting the victory. The second point, as was mentioned earlier on, we should have professional journalists who cannot be replaced by AI. The importance thereof is going to be more important than ever. Once you decided to go for the journalist path, as a professional journalist, you shouldn't be replaced by an AI. Please consider seriously what are the journalists not replaced by AI. The third point, Google. In the case of Google, the algorithm has turned into a black box that they don't understand. So the people will not realize. In the case of generative AI, the black box will be more black than ever. So the expert reporters are needed who can decipher the black box. Generative AI, a new power, has to be watched by a new breed of journalists. Well, I'd like to thank four panelists for imparting their invaluable opinions, talking about AI and how journalism should be going forward. They have given a lot of food for thoughts for us. I will now pass microphone to Mr. Kodama.
So in closing, if I may make a thanking note. First of all, my thanks goes to Mr. Ikegami, moderator and panelist, Professor Hayashi, Mr. Oikawa, Tim Kelly, Reed Stevenson. Thank you very much to all the panelists, and thank you to two simultaneous interpreters. And also, thank you very much to the audience. We've had participants not just within Japan, but from the rest of the world. So I'd like to, on behalf of the organizers, show my gratitude to all the members who have joined us. And the Foreign Press Center will continue to host international webinars only unique to us on urgent issues faced by Japan and the rest of the world with the participation of foreign media. For that purpose, your feedbacks are very much important. After the webinar is finished, you'll see the link to the questionnaire. So I appreciate if you can help us with the questionnaire, your feedbacks about the webinar and future events. If you have any ideas, please feel free to provide them. Last but not least, thank you for a wonderful discussion. And thank you to all the panelists for the wonderful discussion. With that, we would like to conclude the first international FPCJ webinar for fiscal year 2023. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance.